Okay, welcome back, everybody, to the Founders Table. This is a podcast where we sit down with founders, operators, and builders who are shaping industries and just rewriting the playbook on growth. Today's guest is someone I go back with, Brandon Harris, founder of Invested Incorporated and one of the original minds behind Playmaker, which was one of the fastest growing sports media brands of the last decade, if I'm not wrong. Brandon and his team scaled Playmaker from the ground up to more than 25 million followers, launched over 30 original shows, worked with some of the biggest names in sports, and eventually led the company through a major acquisition by Better Collective for up to 54 million, which is a crazy, crazy number, man. That's a crazy, crazy number.
Yeah.
Since then, he's been helping launch new media properties with stars like Shaq, Angel Reese, Jalen Brunson, Josh Hart, and a ton of others, while also building his next venture, Invested Incorporated, which is a data-driven investing and AI platform helping the 99% invest smarter. And Brandon, I actually worked for as a video editor back in the early days of Playmakers. I think it was Deerfield, right? Deerfield offers,
Yeah.
or so this is a first full circle moment for me. So I'm excited to catch up, share the inside story of the Playmaker growth, the acquisition, and then what you're building next. So first of all, I mean, thanks for jumping on, man. It's great to see you. It's been a minute since I've even last talked to you. It's been a very long time. So before we dive into everything, I would love to know just like how have you been? What's new in your world right now? Just fill me in.
Yeah. Life's good, man. I have two beautiful young daughters. I have a 4-year-old and an almost 2-year-old. And post exit at Playmaker, I had the joy of you brought up building media properties with Shaq and Angel Reese and a lot of the top some of my favorite athletes in the world, and also some of the most entertaining and interesting athletes, which was a huge focus for us. And since then have done a lot of stuff, but done some advising, done some investing, but finally kind of back into the founder's seat again and building Invested Inc. and have a SaaS, have 5 newsletters, rolling out some shows, some social handles. So kind of back into the chaos. So that's been a pleasure. How have you been?
Dude, I've been great, man. Been doing a lot. I've changed since being a video editor to now being just a business owner and kind of launching my own ventures, and that's been exciting. It's been great kind of seeing this. Honestly, this call is also sort of an info session for me because you've gone through acquisitions and everything and started companies build up. So there's honestly, selfishly, there's a lot of info in this call that will benefit me a lot as well. But I know like people who are going to listen to it will get a lot out of it. What I want to know, man, is like going back to like the early Playmaker days. What do you remember the most about, I guess, building out that team and the office in Deerfield? Because I think when I had got started with you guys, I think you guys had just gotten the office, if I'm not wrong, or you had it
Yeah,
already for a little bit. Okay.
yeah. Yeah, you came on right when we did that office. And so what happened at that point, that was one of our earlier pivots. And like we were one thing, we were Instagram accounts and other things at first, and then we became kind of a content company, and you were part of that transformation.
Yeah.
And but the just as we got this tiny space in Deerfield, made a studio. The vision was we wanted to scale up our snap show. So we had one
Mhm.
successful snap show. It was my wife editing. I was over her shoulder, like do this, and we had a breakthrough when that Jake Paul fight with Nate Robinson happened, and we
Yeah.
had a viral episode, and it kind of proved out the business model of the snap shows and everything. And then my goal at that point was to kind of transform the entire business and team around we're going to be a snap show creating company. So how do we do that? We get a studio space, we get cameras, we get people, voiceover artists and writers, and we get editors, and we kind of build this machine, this content machine. And so you were one of the first and best editors during that transformation.
Appreciate it. You don't have to stroke my ego like that, but I appreciate that. That's dude. So that was that like a was that your like first big pivot with Playmaker essentially?
It was definitely one of them, and I will say it was definitely the biggest jump in revenue. Like it's
Okay.
definitely we pivoted a bunch and moved from platform to platform and did all kinds of different things. But I think that was the year where we did the Snap shows, and then B, we acquired a talent agency to support the Snap shows. And so
Okay.
basically, for years and years, we were at a similar level of revenue, and then we're suddenly now a multi seven figure business at that point.
That's crazy, man. That's must have been such a cool thing to go through. I'm sure the chaos and everything was insane, but looking back and everything, do you miss any of those days, like that grindstone part?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's why I'm back into it. Honestly,
Sure.
I think that's why I'm back in the early stages. I think there's cool things about late stage. There's cool things about being in a funded corporation that you're more powerful and you can do crazier and bigger things, but
Hmm.
things move slow. There's frustrating things. And I think where I thrive is in the chaos. Where I thrive is I'm able to kind of manage a lot of things at once and jump from thing to thing and be on my feet and move quickly. And like, I think that's a strength of mine and where I thrive. So I do better in this stage than in a giant corporation.
Gotcha. And one of my next questions was obviously like when you think about that era, like what stands out the most, which is like the chaos, the hustle. I feel like you would say it's the chaos because obviously you just said you kind of enjoy that aspect of it. But is there anything particular? Like, I mean, were there any like wins that stood out the best to you, or any hustle moments that you remember where you're like, man, this was a hustle part right here?
Yeah, I mean, it was always we were just trying always. My thing was I was pitching new shows as much as humanly possible and just
Hmm.
eating a bunch of rejections and just trying to add. Devin was trying to organize things and make things kind of processes and make things flow and make things work. And then Max was managing the finances, making sure we weren't overspending, making sure things weren't messed up. So I think without that group, like we would have struggled. And then we brought in Sam Slama at that time, and he
Hmm.
was another operational help. And it was just with kind of putting the team together while we were pushing. So it's I think about this a lot, where a lot of the time to break through, like you have to both do and then it's like chicken or the egg. You have to fly the plane and then organize it and assemble it at the same time.
Hmm.
And so I think that's what I enjoy. It feels like what I imagine an athlete feels like on game night or in a playoff game or whatever. Feels like there's real stakes, and that's what gets me juiced up and excited. Is when we're growing as fast as we can, and I got to figure shit out, and shit might break, and I might need to
Yeah.
replace something. I might need to do this, but that's what I think is my value. That's what
Yeah.
I.
I love that, man. So for just to kind of get people up to speed, for whoever's listening, for those who don't know the story, how did Playmaker go from an idea to, this is a broad answer, but to 25 million follower powerhouse? Obviously, that's a broad thing to kind of go across, but for those who don't know, like, is there some insight you can give there on how you kind of achieve that?
Yeah, it was a lot of steps and a lot of moves and a lot of different things. But at first, I was on the media buying side, so I used to buy posts on a bunch of Instagrams, and so I built this network
Okay.
of connections because I was a buyer, right? And then over time, you develop these relationships. Hey, would you ever sell? Hey, can I do cross promotion? Can you promote my asset that I'm growing? And you start to tinker, and it was a side hustle at first, and you start to get some deals in. You start to generate revenue, and then you make your first jump, and you say, okay, I'm going to try this big campaign and grow this account. I'm going to try this, and you take your first risk, you learn from that, and then you take your next risk, and so it was probably 100 different kind of levels and phases. And okay, now we're going to try this technique. And I used to call it growth hacking, but it's really just every day waking up and what's the next big thing I can try and make a push. And
Okay.
sometimes, a lot of time, it didn't work. I had to take a lot of loans out. And I was paying predatory interest rates. I had to do all kinds of stuff to get there, but I was like, I'm gonna get there.
Yeah.
There was no possibility of failure or no. It was like I'm just gonna eventually figure it out. And it
Yeah.
was probably dumb at a lot of different times, but it ended up netting out fine.
Right. And you got there no matter what. And I love this episode because it's just a true like founder journey. Like it's the loans, everything, the figuring it out, like the true steps on like the next day you just get up and you just what's the next thing I can do? Like if the last thing failed, what's the next thing I can do from that until obviously you compound a win. Um there's that one quote I think from Hormozy. He said volume negates luck. And it's just like if you just keep doing as much volume, it's like eventually, like it's impossible for you not to succeed at the end of the day.
That's it, that's it. It's just there's always a next step, and it can feel like you're stagnating in a day, but over months when you look back at things, if you're just constantly active and what's my next thing, and you're reprioritizing every day and giving it your all, like eventually in some period of months you're going to look back and you're going to say, oh, it didn't feel like I did much. It didn't feel like I like had this massive breakthrough, but in a whole lot better of a spot than I was months ago.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. And I want to get into this is like a spontaneous question for me, like the pitch side of stuff, because obviously you talk about like having to do different pitches. I'm always curious, like what's people's everyone has a different process when I like talk to people. I'm always curious, like, I guess, what's your process through that, dealing with obviously the negatives, like the fails from it, but what's your process going into these pitches? Are you someone who prepares a bunch? Are you someone who just kind of, your key information?
I think it's different. I think it's I like to prepare a lot at first and kind of get that first rep and make sure I come correct that first rep. And then what I like to do is scale it, and now I use a lot of AI for that, but in
Sure.
the past I just used to use a lot of templates and okay. I'm sure you remember some of the shows, but like, there was like, okay, we did this day in sports. Okay, that crushed. What about culture? What about this
Yeah.
other bucket? What about earth? What about this? And then I would just try to pitch seven of those. And then it's kind of the
Yeah.
same athlete luxuries. Okay, what about the luxuries of celebrity? What about this? What about that? Okay, we have Playmaker hoops. How about Playmaker this, Playmaker that?
Yeah.
So that was really I put a lot of time into that first one, a lot of prep, and then I tried to pitch kind of adjacent stuff. Once you have proof, the pitch is a lot easier. Once you have relationships, that
Sure.
second, third, fourth is easier. But I went through probably 20 rejections at first, and I was just trying. You're kind of assessing, okay, this was the feedback on this one, this was the feedback on this one. Clearly, they want something closer in this direction, and then by my 20th pitch, I'm like, I already know you've said no to 19 directions. This is where it is. And finally, that was that Nate Robinson show. And then after that, okay, I know athletes are the thing. So now I got to go find athletes. Who has an athlete YouTube? Okay, Tyreek Hill has an athlete YouTube. So
Yeah.
it's just keep going, poke, 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 find the hole, and then see how far you can go along those lines.
And essentially, what it sounds like you're saying too is that you might have a great idea to pitch at first in a sense, but then obviously if there's some holes in it, like they'll let you know what those holes are, and then you can create something better off of that. Fill the holes, create something better, and then they might notice more, but then you're gonna eventually get to an end product that is the winner.
Yeah, shooters keep shooting, and then eventually you make it, and then you say, okay, how do I make it 100 more times?
Right. Yeah, just repeat the process at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I'm just remembering this now. I think because I was still with you guys. I think it was this day in sports. You guys had like beat out the NBA on for like a snap reward or I forget what it. Please like refresh my memory on that. But I remember it was like a huge thing, and I was like that's crazy, just beating out the NBA on.
Yeah, I mean, we at one point we were a top three or four Snap publisher in sports, and like
That's
that was what we
crazy.
did. And we really like Devin lived in there,
Yeah, he was he was always in it.
and that's what and I was pushing him, and I was pushing him to see how far he could take it, and he was like, "Oh no, we can't get to this. We can't get to this number. It's too big." I'm like, "Devin, we can get to the number," and I'm like, "Okay, what if we did this? It's more extreme than what you want to do. How do we go bigger? How do we think bigger?" And that was my role in it, is just being kind of an engine, being managing partnerships and pushing things, and but you need kind of that complement on the back end of like, who is that person that's going to make sure that you're executing.
Right. And so, you eventually exited Playmaker. What was that acquisition process? What did that look like behind the scenes? How did Better Collective even come into the picture?
Yeah. We went through a process where I was looking at either raising capital, and doing a traditional kind of fundraise around, and versus just selling the business. And
Mm,
my goal was to find the right scenario where the team could grow and keep thriving. We could keep doing what we're doing, but take a step bigger, like go bigger and do shows and things like that with the machine that I knew we had, the team that I knew could do it, and all of that. And so I'm pitching us to a lot of investors, and I'll say like that's not my strength, because what they want to hear is 100x. They want to hear billions, and
they want to
I'm
get their money
naturally
back at the end of the day.
yeah, they want to hear crazy megalomania stuff, and that's not.
Right.
I'm not a guy that likes to exaggerate. I'm not a guy that likes to blow smoke. I'm a very transparent guy. So for me, the fundraising was always a challenge, because I'm like, okay, I think we could sell for maybe 100 million in a few years or something like that. But what they want to hear is what's the $1 billion vision? Oh, I'm going to build the Netflix of sports or whatever the heck, like has to
Yeah.
be so much bigger. So I was finding that I was getting lowballed a lot, and I was kind of starting to prioritize the acquisition. And Better Collective gave us kind of a middle option where it was something where I'd have some ability to earn additional. They gave a bonus pool to our team, so basically everyone, even the people that didn't have equity, were able to get some sort of like upside there. And then
Nice.
also they committed to investing millions of dollars into growth and content and letting me
Nice.
manage that. And so it kind of was like I took some money off the table almost, and they invested. And so that was why I ended up with that. But it was probably a 6 to 9 month process of,
Wow. Crazy.
pitch, like lawyers, negotiate. They probably, like, there was so many times where I thought they were going to be out and this wasn't going to work. And I racked up a legal bill you wouldn't believe. And, if they had backed out, it would have been in a mountain of legal debt and different things. And so it's just one of those things. I just kept trying to land the plane, and eventually we got there. But it was,
Right.
I think the agreement at the end was like 75 pages or something crazy.
That's insane. Yeah, because I've never been through an acquisition, so I don't even know what that side of stuff really looks like. That's a lot of my goals today is trying to get to like an acquisition point. But that's insane. 75 pages of legal stuff. That I was curious on the time frame, 6 to 9 months. How long do you think when you had finally decided, okay, or not decided, but you're like more so I'm going to go towards the Better Collective route. How long did that whole process kind of take?
I would say that was a 6 month process.
Wow.
I think there was like the first 3 months was diligence and negotiations and different things. And then there was 3 months of just legal and like just nightmarish, like documentation stuff where, if I didn't have Max Friedman, I don't know what I would have done. And this was pre AI, I
Yeah.
don't know. That would have just been a nightmare handling it without Max. But that's the thing, is there's a lot of like, okay, you're looking at accounts receivables, you're looking at what money is coming in a few months, you're looking at all of our IP, did our all of our contracts with every team member, everything, basically our tax returns, our bank statements back several years. Like, they're looking
Wow.
through everything you could possibly think of and just making sure there's no issues. And then they inevitably will find a bunch of stuff, and then you're renegotiating. And then you're like, okay, based on this, like, now we will give you this, or like we'll give you this upside, but you have to take this less upfront, and you have to, Brandon, your salary needs to be this now. And that's another thing. Before closing, everyone needed to sign new employment agreements with the acquiring entity.
Sure.
So then you're having to negotiate individually with every single employee, to say, okay, if you're a key employee, you need to agree to all these terms, and this is their contract, and
Right.
this is how they pay their employees, and this is how whatever. And we had one guy who was a key employee who didn't start for the first month because basically we had a disagreement about how commissions would work. And
Hmm.
so they didn't pay commissions in the same way we did, and so that was a
Oh,
whole
wow.
thing. And so we had a it's just a lot of stuff you don't even think about going into it. And we had to have every single investor and every single employee that had equity sign this agreement. So it ended up being, I'm negotiating internally, I'm negotiating externally, we're managing all these docs. It's a 6 month process. We have lawyers, we have an M&A consultant, we have this and that. It's just it was kind of
Man.
it was a whole lot. And then you have to make sure the business doesn't tank during that time period, because then
Right.
they could go to the day of close, and then, oh, all of a sudden this business is worse and now we don't want it anymore. So
Yeah.
there's just it's a lot.
It's a
It's
lot
an
of
intense
sweat.
process.
It sounds like a lot
Yeah.
of sweat, stress, worth it obviously at the end.
Yeah.
Is there like if you could pinpoint a few like of like the biggest lessons I guess you learned from like navigating that like first major acquisition?
Yeah, I think making sure your contracts are right, with your team and everything, making sure that compensation stuff is clear, making sure that equity vesting and agreements are very clear going into things. And the biggest thing is with incentives. You want your salespeople and revenue team to be incentivized, right? And
Hmm.
you want people to reach for things because you want them to be bought in and part of the mission and journey. But you have to be very careful and clear on, what things mean. Make sure that both parties are aligned. There's all kinds of confusion about, make sure incentives don't stack in a way where like two people can't get the same exact incentive, can't get credit for the same thing and get paid twice. And there,
Right.
make sure that your operating agreements and like how your business is structured makes sense so that like you're not stuck in a situation where you need everyone to sign or whatever the case may be. Like you have to kind of be anticipating, okay, there's going to be a lot of things in the future that I'm going to need when it becomes acquisition time. And so
Hmm.
make sure you have all of the legal and financial and contracts and everything in a great place where it's already organized. You already have IP assignment, so that, for example, employees are signing over that anything they make with your company is the ownership of your company. So there's not
Right.
like weird IP stuff that happens. And so
Right.
just stuff like that. Just I think that, and making sure you have a team member that has the experience to do certain kind of like the financial reporting and forecasting
Right.
and things like that, because
Makes
that can be
sense.
everything.
Okay. And I'm very excited to jump into Invested. I want to learn more. I want everyone to learn more about Invested and kind of like what you guys are doing it. So for anyone listening, can you kind of give an idea like what is Invested? Like who people who may not know, like who do you guys serve? What's your mission?
Yeah, I'm trying to build, the modern day media brand for the retail investor. And so I started with newsletters and I have a SaaS. And what's happening next is I'm going to be growing social and shows. And so I view that in a funnel perspective. I view shows and social top of funnel, newsletters mid funnel, SaaS
Hmm.
bottom of funnel. And
Okay.
the mission for all of it united is to help inform and entertain retail investors, right? And build those communities and help people stop guessing, help people stop being late to investments,
Right.
and because I found when I was going into all of this, I found the kind of the information that's out there that people consume is and can be misleading. It can be like
Hmm.
it's individual social accounts. Who's the largest? Who does the algorithm favor? Telling you buy this stock, or this is a stock I like, or this is how I believe you should invest. And people not doing deeper research than that and saying, okay, I'm going to follow this person. It's mostly what it is. Or as people
Hmm.
seeing, okay, GameStop is spiking. Let me get into GameStop. Well, you might be getting in at the top, right? And so
Yeah.
it's important that you like have data. It's important that you have sound financial advice that isn't um, being motivated by, hey, like buy my course or do this.
Right.
And I think the other piece of this is that finance media has been very boring traditionally, right? And so people, I think you're younger than me, but in our age bracket,
Yeah.
they don't watch finance and
Yeah.
investing
No.
content, right? And so that's my goal. Is like I want to take kind of that same approach and be like bring celebrities in, bring cool creators in, do fun content, but also make sure that people are getting value and learning.
So it sounds very similar to like how kind of like what you were doing with Playmaker, bringing all these out like top names, big names, but now you're doing it on an aspect that is obviously purely financial basis, trying to help people with their investing. That's really cool, man. Really, really cool. With because I know you guys are doing a lot with AI too. How does AI play into it?
Yeah, I mean, we use AI in our content processes. We have like a feed of breaking news. We have AI in our SaaS that like alerts people, summarizes scores, does a lot of that stuff. We get a lot of our newsletters get kind of news feeds that are curated by AI in the morning, and
Sure.
our writers use it in the process. And so we use it both in processes, we use it in our product, and we're going to use it in pre-production. We're going to use it in a lot of the other stuff we're doing on the shows. But I think AI gives where I find the most value is like summarizing, scoring,
Hmm.
alerting. That's where I find AI to be the most useful because it can process mountains of data and
Yeah.
summarize it very plainly and simply and alert you as that's
Right.
happening. So to me, much better than scrolling through like a terminal and trying to figure things out yourself over a half hour, having that AI do that instantly and give it to you in a digestible way.
Yeah, no, and AI, I mean, I personally love AI. Like I'm assuming obviously a big fan of AI being part of like invested. Do you see it, I guess, changing the way people invest maybe over the next 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, I think it already is in some ways, but I think there's definitely going to be a lot more automated trading and things like that. ETFs and stuff are already using those kind of things. There's copy trading. There's all kinds of stuff that's happening. Robo advisors.
Hmm.
I think part of our app that we were building out is we have a basically taking the same data but in a conversational interface. So they would have access to all the financial fundamental data. They would have access to your portfolio. They would have access to alternative data points like social and different things. And then you could talk to it like ChatGPT, but it's customized to you and live in real time instead of ChatGPT right now. If you ask it what's the top stocks on Reddit, for example, today, it would go and search the internet and it would pull up our results, right?
Right.
Or some fraction of our results because it's not all publicly available. So
Hmm.
that's the difference is like it's real time, it's integrated, it's customized to you. And so that's one of the things we're looking to do. But I think if you don't use AI, you're just kind of I don't know. It's weird. It's like writing with a pen. I don't know. It's just
Yeah.
it's all very old fashioned, and you can only produce so much. Like I can produce something in 2 hours that used to take me a week. You know?
Right. Yeah. It's an asset at the end of the day. And I don't know who said this, but like I remember the quote and I tell everyone it now. It's just that like AI's in reality isn't gonna necessarily replace a lot of people, but the people who know how to use AI are gonna replace a lot of people. Because it's
Yeah.
such an asset to every single company, organization, even just a job role at the end of the day. That app you're talking, is that your premium product, the Alt Index?
Yeah, so that's a feature that we have for the pro plans is we have the chat interface of that. And eventually we might roll out a separate app that is purely conversational interface or something like that. We've talked about a lot of different things. Like we have portfolio syncing coming where in the future would we allow people to chat to trade, for example, like talk through it. Okay, hey,
Interesting.
should I do this? Blah 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 blah. Okay, yeah, go ahead, make that trade for me.
Interesting.
So
That's
that
really cool.
we'll see. We'll see. There's just so many possibilities, and we want to move fast and learn and make the right decisions. But I'm a big believer in AI for sure.
Yeah. Is there anything that particularly from Playmaker that you've taken into invested, maybe mindset wise or strategy wise?
Yeah, I think one thing that, especially late stage playmaker, was I was a big believer in. There was a lot of people who were just taking what was available to them and doing it, and in terms of shows and stuff. And my attitude was all hits, no misses, best of the best, go big. And I would rather go and spend a ridiculous amount and do it right with Shaq than, do something that I know will be more cost effective and whatever. I just think if you're going to do something, go for the bigger thing, go for the splashier thing, and find a way to make it work. Because otherwise it can be death by a thousand paper cuts, and you're just like, it's just as difficult to manage a small show in most
Yeah.
cases. And so that's I'm hunting for whales. I'm going big. I'm going very aggressive, and there will be pain points with that, and there will be funding and financing challenges and all kinds of different things. But that is what I believe it is required in this day and age where there's so much shit out there. And so
Yeah.
what actually will win is ultimately like premium content,
Yeah.
quality content. And because otherwise, like I said, there's just so much shit. Like you're
Yeah.
competing in the feeds.
Dude, that's such a like I love that notch because it's like it's the same work more or less to do the smaller stuff. So you might as well just do the same work for the stuff that will actually if it worked out, you're going to be way happier at the end. Not that you wouldn't, but it'd be way better.
Take the bigger swings, take the bigger swings because that's what it is required to compete, I think, at a big stage. And that's what people, when you think of going back to acquisition, people don't want to acquire lower middle,
Yeah.
they don't want to go find value properties. They want to go find the best properties, right? They
Right.
want to, that's what it's hard to build the best property. It's
Right.
not hard to build something that is lower middle and decent, right? So
Yeah.
that's kind of the if you're building to be acquired, especially, you should be thinking about how do I build the best in class or close to that where I'm going to have leverage in an acquisition. I'm going to have inbound. I'm going to have people that are looking at this as the top of the tree, the best possible thing. And so that's how I view it.
Love that. And I want to go into like team building, scaling, hiring, things like that. Um, Playmaker, you guys scaled extremely fast, obviously. What did hiring look like during those like peak growth periods? Was it more of like controlled growth? Was it more of a, I'm assuming, build while flying situation?
Yeah. Um, I would say if I have a weakness, it's that I go too fast, right? And so I think you're the era that we've talked about in Deerfield.
Yeah,
That was our most accelerated hiring era because it was like we were making so much money on Snap and we were getting
yeah,
so many new shows and this it was just going so great. And like literally the bottleneck was we couldn't hire fast enough at a quality that would work for Snap, right?
right.
And so at that point we brought in Sam Slamma and we started a kind of a scaled approach where it was like, hey, we are going to our process is just this. They're going to send in a simple test edit. If it's good,
Hmm.
we're going to give them a shot. That's it.
Yeah,
Like we're going to hire them. Period. Nothing, no other considerations. Not a 4 week process. Not a references this and that. If they do a good test edit and they demonstrate that they have the skill to do this, we're going to give them a shot.
yeah,
And so I think we probably at that point did 15 or 20 editors in a month or two, and
yeah.
over time, people like you stood out and
Hmm.
rose to the top of I think the group. And then there was people who either couldn't keep up with the pace or
Yeah,
kind of proved that it was not sustainable or ultimately just didn't enjoy it.
right.
And it kind of naturally weeded themselves out, and then we kept trying to add to the top. But I think I'm a believer. Like right now, I have probably 6 or 7 open roles. I'm trying to kind of like find the best candidates in each role at the same time while also closing the seed round while before I make the
Yeah,
final offers. And so I'm kind of like I'm juggling 6 jobs at once by myself, and this raise and running the company as it is today. And so it's just what I like to sprint. I like to hire fast, and I'm a guy that believes in um, trusting your gut and testing, seeing the work, like show not tell.
yeah,
And if I see that somebody's good, I like their energy, I believe in them, I'm going to give them a shot.
right.
But the corporate environment and how they hire is the exact opposite of that. 4 to 6
Really.
weeks, talk to
Yeah, yeah.
references, do this, so
Yeah, no, you
that's
got.
how I look at it.
I remember that whole process too coming in. I remember doing that first test edit, and then I think I did one where I just came in to meet you guys at the office, and then that was it. That's literally it. I was like, dude, this was the dopest thing ever.
Yeah, it was cool, and everyone was like, all the editors were cool too. It was like
Hmm.
young, fun, good energy. That was
Yeah,
a part of the thing. Also, was culturally like I wanted to have a group of people that had great energy and could enjoy this work and feed off of each other and would get along. And so that was a really fun chapter for sure.
with invested right now, like, what does your team look like today? And I'm curious, like, how big are you imagining it to get? Are you wanting to keep it intentionally lean? Do you expect to scale to a head count that's like huge over the next few years?
I think the team right now is we have 3 full time.
Hmm.
I have a couple fractional and 1099 people helping, and an ad agency that helps us and some other stuff. So small, lean as far as W-2, and then a nice extended network of 1099s and freelancers we're using. And then,
Sure.
but soon, like I said, I'm trying to hire somewhere between 4 and 6 more
Yeah.
W-2s over the next month or so. And then I view it as I think I view it a little bit differently in that because of what we're doing, because of AI, because of like the kind of the machine that we're looking to build, I'm more on like I'd rather have 20 person A players only, you
Right.
know, highly paid like star group than what I've done in the past, which is like a shitload of 1099s and people that are, fractional or agency or whatever. I think my goal with this is somewhat small group of just top of the top of the top talent that is high energy and using AI to be more efficient and powerful and all of that. And I think that's the right way to be today. And but where it could go in the future, I want to build a massive company. So
Sure.
uh, that usually requires massive headcount. But I think because we're digital media, because we're SaaS and publishing, like these are not headcount intensive things. So I don't think we're
Right.
going to be thousands of people ever, but
Right.
could we be into the hundreds in a couple years? Like I think so.
Yeah. Are you still, well, I mean, you're still a little bit involved with Playmaker too, but do you have any I guess roles that you play with Better Collective at all? I'm not familiar kind of like how that whole process worked.
So I worked for Better Collective for 2 years and a quarter. So I was the Playmaker president and chief content officer under Better Collective. And
Okay.
so as of September 1st, I no longer am involved with either Playmaker or Better Collective. They are
Nice.
officially fully independent. But for 2 years and a quarter post acquisition, I was, intimately very involved. And then now my whole thing is invested.
Was that solely just to kind of, I guess, make sure that Playmaker just continued on a good growth as you kind of exited out?
Yeah, I was part of the original plan, and the acquisition came with a lot of the key employees got 3-year contracts,
Sure.
and so kind of came into this ecosystem. And the idea was we would keep running Playmaker from inside with the under their leadership, and then we would also assist their other brands, right? So we might bring our expertise into the Action Network or into another brand,
Gotcha.
and so I worked mostly just Playmaker, and then there was a casino brand that they launched All In that I was a part
Hmm.
of as well. But beyond that, I was as chief content officer, I was like, my goal was do shows, right? And so I would go and launch Shaq show. I would go and launch Jalen Brunson show. I'd be part of the negotiations. I'd be forecasting what the revenue should look like, what the views should look like. And then managing the partnerships, assembling the team. Who was okay? Producer here, editor here. We need two talent bookers now because we have 6 shows, and so that was what I set up the podcast machine within Playmaker, and then once that was kind of running and set, then they asked me to build a casino media brand. And then after a few months of that, I decided I wanted to start something new.
Nice, man. Nice. And like, as we kind of wrap up here, because I want to be respectful of like your time. I guess one of my final questions is that, is there like a legacy that you're trying to build, or is there like what are you trying to get after?
Well, look, I love building, right? I don't know what I would do if I wasn't building. Like, what would I just be like working out all day and like playing video games? Like, I need a mission in life, and my kids go to school during the day. I can't just. There's only so much parenting you can do at age 4 and 2. Also,
Sure.
so I need a flag to march to, and I think for me, I'm genuinely motivated by the ability to build something that I don't think exists as far as like what I'm describing in this media, this investment media company. Like I don't think that it exists out there, and I think we can build something special, and I think we can help people while doing so. I'm not going to pretend I'm an altruist, like I'm doing this for charity. Like I'm not.
Yeah,
I'm out here trying to build businesses and get even richer and
I
get
love
my
that.
friends and families and everybody richer. And
Yeah,
uh, but it is a huge perk that I can sleep well at night, and know that I'm potentially helping people grow their net worth on top of these other
right,
benefits. It feels much better than, for example, promoting gambling in sports
right.
and stuff like that.
Is there, I guess one more question. Is there something that I guess you would give to someone listening this who maybe they just have an idea they want to start, or maybe they're halfway through their journey as like a founder. Like, I guess if you could pick a few, like what do you think you would say to some of those people?
Yeah, I think first things first, like start. Like doesn't matter. Like the idea that there's a right time is, I think, the most ridiculous concept. And I tell you, my wife is that way, and I'm just constantly I give the toughest love because that's just not how this shit goes. Like you're never
Yeah,
gonna have the perfect idea, the perfect setup, the perfect time. Like life happens. Life's always gonna be messy and difficult, and you just got to go and dive in and commit to it. And that's the thing is, if you're gonna be an entrepreneur, just know there's gonna be bumps. You're gonna be crazy amounts of rejection. There's going to be failures. There's going to be stressful times. There's going to be probably highs as well. Hopefully highs. Hopefully it's not all lows, but there's hella lows. It doesn't matter who you are. If you're the CEO of OpenAI, you're getting sued left and right. You're in front of Congress. Your mentor Elon Musk hates you, and this and that. You like it doesn't matter what scale you're in. Shit sucks. It's a grind, and you got to know who you are. If you're tough enough to handle that shit and push forward and be determined, then go do it because there's never a better time. Go do it and figure it out. And that's the whole thing. I'm not special. I'm not a genius. I'm just like determined, and I solve problems, and I know I will figure it out inevitably. Like at the end of the day, it may not be today, it may not be tomorrow. I'm gonna figure it out, and I'm gonna keep
Yeah.
poking and prodding and pushing until I do. And that's all that is required. There's a lot smarter people than me that will be a lot less successful than me, and that's the reality. Because I have the balls to push forward, and that's it. That's it. I have the balls and the belief to push forward, and so I think that's my advice, man. And enjoy the journey. Just know people always look forward to targets. They say, okay, I'm going to sell this for $1 billion, and everyone's going to love me, and girls are going to want me, and this and that, and this is going to be so amazing. People always do that. Don't do that. Enjoy it. There's magic in this, in the building. This is
Yeah.
like the journey. Enjoy the journey, because that's what if I have one regret, it's that I was always looking forward, and I needed to be bigger, and I didn't appreciate what was happening when it was happening. It was never good enough for me.
Yeah.
And I just wish going back that I appreciated it. I was like, man, this is so cool. I'm like, this is my brother. These are some of my best friends. We're making sports content for a living. This is so dope. Never thought that once. I was like, this sucks. I'm so stressed. I want to be a millionaire. Blah, blah, blah. I wish going back that I loved it. And this time I'm committed to doing it and feeling differently. And like, just know that anxiety, you might feel that, you have that in your brain, you have that imposter syndrome. Process it. It's there. It's a thought. Let that shit go by. That's all it is. It's a thought. It's not the reality.
Dude, you got me fired up at the end of this podcast, man. I love that. That was the best way we could end this thing. Um, man, that was dope. That was dope. I agree so much on so many of the things you said with the journey aspect and just enjoying it. Dude, thank you for coming on. Is it okay? I mean, I'm assuming can I link your LinkedIn in the description if anyone wants to check you out, shoot your follow or
Please.
whatnot. Um,
Yes.
for everyone listening, please check out Invested. Brandon and his team, they're going to do amazing things. If that ending didn't get anybody else fired up, then you must have had this thing on mute at this point. So, but I appreciate you, man. As always, for everyone listening, feel free to check out Brandon. And we'll see you in the next episode of the Founders Table.